I've always been very curious, like just with intellectually curious, but also sport curious, I guess. Like I'm not scared of being bad at something right off the bat. And then if I like something when I try it, I'm going to go 110% in it. Maybe sometime higher percent, which is probably why I got so lost. I was obsessed. And that's just my curiosity showing up that way. And I think if you're not curious about trying new things, you're not saying you're missing out on it on something because I don't know, but you probably are in a way, like there's probably something out there that you didn't think you'd like that you would actually love.
Welcome to the Blue Rose Podcast. I'm your host, Becca Blue Rose, a runner, storyteller, and believer in creating a life that feels like your own. Some weeks it's just you and me, and other weeks I'm joined by women who are chasing their own version of a bold, unapologetic life. Together we explore what it really means to take risks and trust your own path. Dreamer, skier, climber, sailor, runner, cyclist, paddler, adventure racer. If those titles sound like a lot for one person to hold, it's because our guest today doesn't just participate in the outdoors, she lives for the curiosity that drives her across every terrain imaginable. Today I am joined by Marie. She is a powerhouse in the adventure racing world, but her journey started far from the mountains, chasing Olympic sailing dreams on open water. In this episode, we're peeling back the layers of that transition. We talk about what it looks like to pivot when a lifelong dream no longer fits, the raw reality of the aftermath of a multi-day race, and why she believes that if the path isn't a hell yes, it's a no. Whether she's navigating the wilderness or building community from the ground up, Marie's perspective on self-awareness and growth is exactly what we need to hear. So let's dive in.
My name's MP. It's short for Marie Pierre. That's usually how people ask me what it's for. But yeah, I live in Squamish, BC in Canada, and originally from Quebec, so from the east side of Canada. And yeah, I'm an industrial designer that design outdoor equipment. And on my spare time, I'm usually outside, either up high in the mountains on the water, or yeah, doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, what brought you from Quebec to Squamish?
Well, originally I moved to Vancouver. I was like a full-time competitive sailor. So I kind of did that from teenage years till my early 20s. And I was kind of done with this, well, not done with the sport, but done with campaigning. I was like essentially trying to go to the Olympics. And, it's like a 4-year cycle. And when I didn't make the last cycle, I decided it was time to let that go and pursue something different. And I got an opportunity to teach sailing in Vancouver. So I took that move across the country. Didn't think it was a fully move yet. I thought it was a temporary thing. But then I ended up never driving back. And well, I drove back, but I never moved back
Never moved
fully.
back.
Yeah, and then that led me to do a lot more sailing here, like big boat sailing. So I did kind of transition from dinghy sailing, and which for some of you that don't know, it's just like one person or two person little boats that go basically the type of sailing you see at the Olympics. And then big boats or like offshore sailing would be like, 10 person, like 5 to 10 person crew, and usually like 25 feet to like 50, even larger boats. So yeah, I did that for a little while until I started kind of leaving the water and going a little bit more into mountains.
Yeah. Okay, so you were a sailor, you were trying to make it to the Olympics, and then I know that you got into adventure racing somewhere in there and that you have a lot of other sports that you're into, like skiing, and I think you said paddling, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm curious what that transition was like into finding all of these other sports.
Yeah. I mean, I think I guess it's been a while. I've been like in BC now for almost 12, probably just over 12 years. So, I think I was like purely a sailor for the longest time. I did do some like track and some cross country stuff when I was in high school, running wise, but I was not really good at those like explosive sport things. And that naturally drove me out of it. But then, yeah, I think, uh, sailing slowly it's pretty committed. Like when you're doing big races, like I did twice, like raced to Hawaii, one from Victoria and one from LA. And those are kind of like your entire year. You know, it's a big event. You spend so much time on the boat, so much time doing other events. And I think I got a little bit, not tired of it, but just needing a little bit of change because they were quite similar. Like sailing twice to Hawaii was like, oh, first time was really cool. Second time I was like, okay, I think I need to try something else.
How long does
Um,
that take?
I mean, we were racing and we were on a very uncomfortable carbon fiber boat that was like not comfortable at all. So that was, I think 7.5 days, but some people would take maybe twice as long, like different boats, because basically a bunch of different type of boats could do it. And then it's like an handicap rating. So based on the speed of your boat, you get different like ratings. So yeah, it was fast, but it was like, you know, we were racing. Like we were not really like hanging around, and we were not fishing. We were not like we were just
Yeah,
racing. So yeah, I think that kind of led me to explore other things. I mean, at the same time I was doing that, I was working at MEC, um, which is like REI in Canada, as a floor staff. So I was just selling products, helping people basically buy stuff for the outdoors. And naturally, like that got me out more because then I was working with a bunch of like-minded people. I was like starting hiking, getting all geared up, started ski touring, started like basically like MEC just like brought me to get to touch everything. I even like whitewater kayaked once. Like it was just like super easy to get out and try different things. And also get the gear for all these different things because you could borrow it or you could buy it for a discount, all these things. I think from there, I started being a little bit more intrigued in other things. And then I feel like this is a question you're going to ask me later, but I'm going to go in it.
that's okay.
But like, I got into ultra running through doing, it was like a Fat Dog 120, which is like a really famous race here in Canada and in BC. And there's a relay one that you can do, which is like you cover the entire 120-mile, but over with 7 people, I think. I can't remember exactly how many people we were, but the store, so the MEC Vancouver store had a team and they needed one more person. And I remember I was doing a lot of sailing and I was like basically doing a lot of stagnant activities. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really ready, but I always kind of had that like attitude of try it. I'm curious. I'm sure I can survive. I kind of always had that like, I'm sure I'll survive. It might not be the most comfortable, but I'll do it. And I think the leg that I did was one of the bigger one. It was like 30K at least. I can't remember the finishing one. So like, I don't know why I ended up with that one, like really nice leg. Our team I don't think we won, but we were on the podium. So we got to get a prize. We got to pick a prize and I picked a free entry to a 50-miler. And naturally that got me into it because then there was like that race got canceled for some reason and I got a discount on a different race. And then I kind of like just ended up doing a bunch of discounted race somehow, my first few. And it sounds silly that like discounted races get you in, but like at the time it felt like such a big purchase to just pay for something you have no idea. But so those free entry do work. They get people out. And
Mhm.
so I did my first a couple 50 miles and I really kind of loved it and hated it at the same time. But like I was just kind of addicted to that feeling of feeling impossible. And I was very much I'm not someone that trains like obsessively for things. I just know, I feel like I just like, whatever, I'm going to figure it out. So I never got the pressure to train. I just like went for runs whenever, went for bike rides. I was like, I'm not going to change too much my lifestyle. I'm just going to do this fun event. Um, and you learn, you know, when you do that, you make some mistakes. But yeah, I think like that kind of got me really into trying like crazy things, or just like not afraid of trying crazy things and even just bigger hikes and things. And then from there, I mean, I went to school also there was a 4 year stance where I went to school to become a product designer. After really kind of just realizing that I was a gearhead. So those years were less active, definitely kind of like was probably a big part of my life where I was probably a little bit more, not miserable, but probably in hindsight realize how maybe too focused on school I became and really unbalanced my life became. Um, but then eventually I was like still doing things, still like mountain biking, like weekend warrior, totally weekend warrior, doing nothing during the
Mhm.
week. And then like weekend was outside kind of thing. But yeah, and I think I was still working in the retail, so I was still kind of like surrounding myself with maybe to a normal person that is still a lot of outside activities, but for my level before I went to school was like way less. Like I feel like my fitness kind of dropped down. So endurance sports kind of were not really a thing I was able to pursue. But then yeah, I guess adventure racing came into my life. And it literally popped out of nowhere. I remember that I had basically just graduated. Yeah, I had a job now. I was working my current job, and I was like, I think I got a Peloton that year just to try to get back. Just like I was like,
Mhm.
I need to like now I have time and I have a schedule and I can. And thankfully, I had that Peloton because it kept my fitness kind of okay. And then I got this email from an old sailing friend, so someone I hadn't seen for probably like 8, well, maybe not, probably over 10 years, said
Mhm.
like he was an American on an American team, and he said, "There's this race in Canada. We're looking for a female. Would you come? I think I follow you on Instagram, and I think you're doing all the sports individually. I think you could do this. And I know you've done some offshore racing, so I know you understand sleep deprivation. And I think those pieces are what we need. And the rest will just show you the ropes kind of thing." Um, and like everyone, I thought adventure racing was a relay, and it's not. So then I was like, oh, it's not a relay. We get to travel this whole distance together. And for some that don't know, adventure racing is like multi-sport over usually an expedition race would be about 5 days. So 500 kilometers, which is, I don't know in miles. But it would be mountain biking, trekking, so hiking and paddling, which is usually done in a pack raft, a double pack raft. So two double pack raft for a team. So it's a team of 4 and it has to be co-ed. So one woman or one man. And yeah, so we travel together. We don't sleep a lot because naturally it's a race. Because I got that wrong, definitely. I was thinking, oh, we're just gonna go camping with like our big backpacks. We're gonna make food at night. We're gonna bring tents. Like I thought it was just gonna be like an expedition, like the regular expedition. But little did I know it was like 30-liter backpack, no tent, just bivy on the side of the road, like very roughing it up. But I kind of love that part because I'm a very competitive person, and I think I had left that side for a few years completely. And then it was like a way to bring back the competitiveness while being fully outside and while doing all the things that I love. So I think it was like the merging of the two was just like this perfect thing. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. So the race was called Expedition Canada. Uh, it was a beautiful race. It was super fun, and I was familiar with some of the terrain, so I had that little advantage maybe for our team. But yeah, it was the hardest thing. But the team aspect of adventure racing was really what kept me really interested because the team that I had was amazing. Like we had so many laughs. We just bonded so well, and I didn't know. I knew one of them, I guess, but not really well. And then we just bonded so well that I felt like this was such a special thing. I was like, no sport has ever taught me that. Even sailing offshore with 10 people on the boat never felt like quite that special. Um, so I was pretty hooked, but I was like, okay, like what's next kind of deal? Like I can't just like I don't know. I guess this was a one-time
Yeah.
thing. And later that year, someone invited me to go to the World Championship in South Africa. Same thing. Woman dropped out of a team, looking for a woman replacement. That's the beauty of the sport is if you're a woman interested in adventure racing, there's tons of team always looking for women because there's not less of us out there.
Yeah.
So I joined this Canadian team and didn't know any of them. Again, it was kind of like a wild card. We met online a few times, and then we did this race, which was World Championship is 1,000 kilometers usually, and it's about 9 days long. Like they plan it to be about 9 days max. And that was now the hardest thing I had ever done at the time. And it was hot and it was cold. It was like hyperthermic at night, heat exhaustion during the day, and we pushed so hard. Our team was really competitive, so we pushed really hard. And we took care of each other. So none of us got sick. None of us had really big health issues, or like we were always pushing the line really well. So I think that's why we did actually pretty okay. I think we were like 23rd out of 100 and something. So pretty good, I think, for a world championship first experience, that our team that had never raced together. Mm. And then, so yeah, I guess that experience was like, okay, now this is the thing I do. I love this. I got to do my own race, my own team. And then I got into adventure racing pretty obsessively, I would say. Like, went to Chile for a race, then we did a race in Oregon, then we did a race in New Zealand, and then last year I did a race in Morocco, again with total strangers. And then did had an interesting experience in Morocco with the team experience again, because I was joining another team that I never knew, as a woman, and it was good, but I just felt this is the first time I kind of reflected on like this might be slightly obsessive, because I am now spending vacation I don't have, so unpaid vacation, all my savings. I am traveling across oceans with all gear, and buying all the food, all the gear. You're spending thousands of dollars. Yes, that time I got a free entry because they were looking for they were not they're like, don't have to pay, you just come. But like, money was spent like pretty aggressively on adventure racing, and I know money is not, it's like shouldn't make decision based on money, but like you should also look out for yourself and make sure that you're making good choices. Um, and I think the team didn't quite bond the way that I always had as a previous experience. So that made me reflect on that a lot more, and be like, is this how I want to spend my vacation? Is this who I want to sleep in a ditch with? Like, is this really what I want to do for a while? Thankfully, Morocco was like probably the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And I was really kind of like taken by that. And every little difficult moment that I was going through, I was just like kind of really focused on the environment, which is not something that I had done in previous races, because I was so focused on the racing that I would like forget to look around, looking at the maps. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to say that adventure racing, we don't use any technology. We just use map and compass. So we have to navigate ourselves across
And
the whole.
is it always the same sports? Because I'm from Oregon, and I know that there was an adventure racing team in Oregon. I don't know if they're still there, but I recall there being, like, a rock climbing or, like, rappelling section, and then I remember one that I watched, like, maybe this is what you're talking about with paddling, but I felt like they were, like, sailing across, like, an ocean or something, and this could be completely wrong.
Yeah, it
Um,
does change. It does change
okay.
based on where you are. So, like, some countries don't have water or don't have rivers, so you won't have paddling. Or some, like the famous one that people know, maybe adventure racing from, is the Eco Challenge in Fiji that was televised on Amazon Prime. Like that one, they sailed over this like outrigger thing, and they paddleboard. They like had to build their own raft out of wood. Like, it's kind of just like.
That's probably the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like one popular one that get a lot of people into the sport. But like generally, there's paddling, which could be a sit on top kayak, questionable sit on top kayaks, plastic that the race organizer might provide. And if it is, usually pack rafts are getting really popular because it allows people to like go in some remote places. So the downside of that is we might have to carry your pack raft for quite a while, so that means like all the gear on our backs on a bike or on treks, which is, part of also the struggle and the adventure. So pack rafts have kind of become more popular. Most teams have their own pack. Like, you kind of have to bring your own, or you can rent one sometime. But so I think the sport is evolving towards that, because it takes a little bit less of the race organizer to provide all the boats, and it allows for crazy kind of adventure and places that maybe you couldn't send otherwise, like 100 people, right? Because you couldn't
Mhm.
bring maybe 100 boats there, or not, but like, you get the point. So yeah, it
Yeah.
does vary.
Okay.
And I think sometimes they'll be rock climbing or rappelling mostly. And then sometimes there'll be like, snow stuff. So like glacier, like crampons, or like, you need to bring a little bit more of snow stuff. Haven't done one with skis, but I mean, I wouldn't see why that wouldn't happen in the future. But, it usually has to stay kind of safe too. Like it can't be something where you're too exposed, where you need too much knowledge about like, crevasse rescue or things like that. Like, so it's usually like this, it's hard enough as it is to do all these things while not sleeping, that it's usually like I look back and I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty chill. But like doing it on day 3, 4 with like maybe a total of 5 hours sleep at that point, you're pretty happy. It's like you don't have to actually like tie everyone up. And it's usually pretty manageable for someone to do it for almost the first time. Uh,
Hmm.
Generally, people will practice the sport that they know it's in the race, or they'll tell you in advance what sport there is. And some have swimming too. I've never done
Okay.
that. But yeah, so it does vary. I forget where I was, but I think, oh yeah, so Morocco there was not much paddling in that one. It was really just bike and trek. Like, yeah, this race was like blew my mind in terms of the landscape, and like how remote we were. So it was a great experience, but made me kind of reflect on I can get those great experience without the the racing, like I don't know that I need the racing. The racing's taught me so much, like about being out there on my own and like navigating and like doing just even managing relationships with people and like conflict and, leadership. Like that part, I don't think I could ever thank adventure racing enough for what it's taught me. And like I could see it in all the aspects of my life. But I also know that the intensity of the sport and the training that it required in a way, because I was just always going for a run, going for a bike ride, going for some kind of thing every day almost. Not like intensely, but just trying to keep my body moving and spending time on my feet. And it became obsessive because I cared so much. And I wanted to like maybe be really good at the sport. And I could see that I could be good at the sport, but I was definitely I realized I was losing myself a little bit, I guess, in this. So, so yeah, I mean, I did my last race for now. The World Championship was in Canada, in 2025. And I wasn't too sure about doing that one. It's another kind of big event. Even though it's local, it's still expensive. It's still a lot of gear. It's still a lot of time off. I did it with this Belgium team that I knew some of them, and we had a great time. It was really nice, but it was also very nice because I had told myself this is the last race for a little bit. I just need a break and I need to like refocus on why I want to be outside, and those just like focusing on the people that I want to be with in the outdoors, not necessarily just like, yeah, putting your head down and racing. Um
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, do you think it's like an outlet for something, or do you think there's a reason that you've become obsessed with it? Because, like, obviously to try to, like, get to the Olympics, you kind of have to be a little obsessed with sailing, I'm assuming. And so,
Mhm.
like, allowing yourself to not be obsessed, like, how does that feel and fit into your life? Because it seems like that's something that's been a part of your life for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think every like endurance athlete out there is definitely obsessed to a certain level with what they do, because you kind of have to. It's like it's a hobby, but it's a big hobby that takes a lot of your time. I think it's healthy to a certain level to be obsessed. I think where it became unhealthy for me is that I realize now, and this is still new for me to not be super competitive, but I was running away from some of my problems. I was definitely, it was a reason to to not come home really early. It was a reason to like have plans and like commit to my own things, just like keep myself super booked and busy, and kind of avoiding probably some decision that I had to make for myself. And I mean, I was probably going through some pretty big personal stuff for a long time. Just like I was not happy. I think that's the biggest one. And I know it sounds pretty intense, but like I wasn't really happy with where my life was going. Like I was kind of feeling a little stuck, which is crazy because, I had a late decision in my career. I spent a lot of time just not knowing what I wanted to do, but then I made that decision. And to feel stuck when you've like got the job that you went to school with, and it from the outside, it looks like you're living this perfect life. And I was with someone for 12 years and I ended that relationship in the last year. And all these things might have come because I pushed myself so hard with adventure racing. Not saying adventure racing caused the unhappiness and all that, but adventure racing made me realize how much I was delaying making big decisions in my life, and how it showed me, like, not it didn't show it showed me a lot of good things, but it also gave me such an easy excuse to not deal with my demons, or not do a reflection on, like, am I happy? Is this what I want? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And maybe my life was a little stagnant because I don't know, like, when everything is, when you're with someone for so long and when everything is in order, you kind of feel like you could stay like that for a long time. So I was kind of there, and I think, um, yeah, it was too. Adventure racing demanded so much time that it became what I tend to more than, but more than the rest of the things. And then this is when I realized that I had maybe put a lot of friendship on the sidelines, a lot of experiences. And it's not like experiences like, someone invited to me to their wedding and I said no because I was racing. It was not like, it was experiences that I don't know what they would have been. It was more like I wasn't really free. I was always busy, and I was always kind of like, even today, like people see me in town and they're like, "Hey, MP, when's your next race? When's your next big thing? Where's your next crazy adventure?" And like, okay, I have some like little events here and there, like, but uh, that are maybe crazy to some people, but I'm quite toned down right now. And sometimes I'm like, it was hard for me at first to be like, "Actually, nothing. I'm just taking a break." And they're like, "What?" Like, and then it gave, I'm like, "Why do you care? Like, why? This is my life. Why?" And I think I kind of became a little bit addicted to always being like the person that would show up to whoever, a party in the office, and just be like, "Hey guys, I just got invited to do this sick race." And it just became what I was chasing. And meanwhile, maybe I didn't realize that, I'm not gonna say my life was falling apart, but it was just like, you know, that's not everything. That's like 2 weeks in, that's like a 2-week stint a race, and the prep maybe is a few months, but it's like, it's so short. And those events, when they're done, they're just a memory. They're not really like something you continue growing. It's just done and you move on to the next thing. So I kind of realized that I wasn't really growing into, like, on the personal side. And I was always hearing people, and I still hear that for some adventure racing people, they'll say like, "It's so hard." Like, I love the hardship of adventure racing because like you come home after and everything just seems so comfy and easy and good. And it is true. It is 100% true. And I think I was also getting that. And I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, my life is pretty good. Like, I get to like sleep in sometime and I get to like, have coffee." You just kind of like almost romanticize your life when,
Mhm.
even when you're in the bush and you're like, "Oh, but when I'm home, I'm going to be so great. It's going to be so great. My dogs and all that." And I think it was like so extreme that then you feel like everything's good when you come home, right? It's like almost like adrenaline junk. I'm sure it's like kind of what some people have with adrenaline,
Yeah.
like, except it was not quite adrenaline. It was more just like you're paying to go to war. So you come back and you're like, "Oh, I'm good."
Yeah.
And then you enjoy, like, I know that one of my favorite thing after a race is just like, I can eat as much as I want. I just eat like anything and no guilt, no nothing. But then you think back, you're like, that's not the healthiest thing to do if that's what you're chasing, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not dissing adventure racing at all. Like, I love it and I will do it again. I know. It's just, I think like, yeah, I think just like in terms of like adventure and endurance, I think like I just pushed it maybe a little bit too far. But I was lucky that I wasn't injured. It's not why I'm stopping. It's not because I'm injured or unhealthy or all of that. I'm just kind of making that decision. And I think like people is or relationships are the reason why I am making that choice, because now I'm like planning more like to go suffer still, but not under a timeline, not with someone watching me on the internet, and just doing it. And maybe instead of sleeping for 30 minutes in the ditch, I'm going to sleep for 5 hours in the ditch and actually get a restorative sleep, like, so I think that shift is kind of where maybe I'm heading.
I wanna believe people are just rooting for you, and that's why they're like, "What do you mean? Why are you stopping?" You know? And I do think sometimes, like, there is something I talked about on a podcast recently, which maybe you had listened to, was kind of like how you're kind of a mirror for other people, and it's like if you're super like, today I talked to one of my friends, and she is just, like, so passionate and enthralled and, like, in love with her life right now that it was, like, palpable through the phone, and I think for the first time in a while, I was kind of like the one on the opposite side of that, and I was like, am I showing that much energy for my life right now? And it's just kind of like sometimes I think it makes people, like, question themselves, and maybe that's not true for the people asking you, but that's always something I like to think about when people are like when you're like, "Yeah, why do people care?" And I think sometimes it's kind of like because you give them that, like, excitement and that energy that they're looking for in their life. Something that comes up on this podcast a lot is, like, just because right, I'm talking to women in their 20s and their 30s and kind of, like, how they make authentic decisions for themselves in their life, and I'm curious with whatever you're willing to share on, like, how you kind of figured out that you weren't happy, because I think when you are shifting between such extremes, I feel like it could be kind of hard because I know for me, when I come back from, like, a big adventure or a big endurance experience, I definitely like, I don't know if you've heard the saying, like, post-race blues, but, like, I definitely get sad and, like, a little depressed afterwards because I'm like, "That was, like, so amazing, and my energy was incredible, and that was, like, so life-giving," and then sometimes you come home and you're like, "I'm depressed," and then is it like, "Well, am I just sad because that happened, or am I unha" and it's really hard for me to decipher my feelings sometimes, and so I'm just curious how you kind of figured all of that out.
I mean, I'm not sure I got it figured out, but
No one
but I
does.
think I definitely do. Okay, so I guess there is that even post adventure racing, the racing blues, because you just want to be out there without your phone, because we don't have our phones with us for all the race. So we're like completely disconnected. Some big event could happen and we wouldn't even know. Like we'll find out eventually, but like so I did get those for sure about like just a desire to be back out there, but I think because it was so rough, then there was like almost a silver lining to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, yeah, I I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I quite like just like one day woke up and figured it out. Is maybe just like I wasn't really like doing things necessarily for myself. Like I was. I feel like when I was doing solo things like ultra running or just things like that, like you're doing it for yourself because you're not doing it for a team, unless maybe you were on a team or you're sponsored maybe, but like you're usually just choosing to register yourself and you're going to go through this solo, and you're very kind of connected to that feeling of why you're doing this most of the time maybe. And I think I love the part of adventure racing that's like teamwork, and like that's what I'm addicted to. I love the relationship it builds, but I also think it's also very easy to overdo it because you want to make sure that you're like you're desired on the team and you're gonna keep up and you're gonna be strong and you're not gonna like fall apart. But we're all gonna fall apart at some point. So it's not realistic to think you're not gonna fall apart. But it's like I think it was harder maybe to do those check-ins because you were just going so like all the time. I This summer was like a big change for me. I was suddenly having to make new friends or change the way that I was doing things. I move into a new place. reconnected with people, or reconnected with even new people, or like some clubs became more important for me, and like saying yes became super easy to things, because I just had to ask myself, do I want to do this? Yeah. Okay, let's go, and I always said, if it's not hell yes, it's no. And I find, since it's just kind of me, I just been able to do that so much easier. And naturally, now I realize that I wasn't doing that when I was, so consumed in racing and all that. Like, okay, I wasn't necessarily not doing it, but I was just like less clear about the whys. And like, it's hard. I mean, to do things by yourself, it's hard. Like, there's so many times where like I was making tentative plans to go hike a mountain that I wanted to, or something even nearby. Like, we're not taking big, complicated things, but and then like either no one could come, or people were bailing, or and I was like, oh, and I was just sitting at home, like, and then the few times I like pick myself up and be like, you know what, let's do it. It's fine. Bring bear spray, just bring whatever you think you need if things were to go wrong. And almost every single time I was just like catching myself smiling, just like listening to music sometime not, and just like being fully just happy to be out there and thinking, oh, I'm actually, my presence is enough. Like, me is okay. And sometimes I bring my dog. Sometimes it's just me. And I think that was something that I had never done before, just taking myself out. And I think once you can do that, then you can also choose the people you bring, and you can also know when you want to go or not go. And I think maybe that balance is what I've learned through maybe the big life changes. Maybe this is less about the racing. This is more just about like knowing that this change was good for me. I think I saw that on the internet somewhere. It's like, you'll be disappointed like 1,000 times until you learn, until you decide to like do something about it. And that hit me hard, because I'm like, holy shit, that is true.
Yeah.
Like, how many times you just like not done something, and then or like someone hurt you and you're like, ah, it's not gonna happen again, and all these things, and you just like telling yourself what you want to hear. You're telling yourself, and then eventually that thing happens, and you decide, you know what, I'm gonna make a change today. I'm not gonna hope for the best. So I'm not. And I think that was essentially what sort of happened in the last year, is just like making a decision off, maybe like, okay, this is so off my path. This is so off the normal trail that I take, or the normal route. And I'm just gonna try it. And I can happily say now that, oh my God, doing solo trips, or not racing, or not having a big race on the calendar is not that scary. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I totally went on a tangent here.
No. No, that's great though, because I mean, I'm of similar, habits as you, and in terms of, like, when I come to, like, trail running, I'm also quite obsessive, and I feel like um what was I was listening to something about, like, because 'cause I'm a very spontaneous person, but I like to, like, plan, and I like to have things on the calendar because I like to know that I'm like, "Well, I have this adventure and this adventure," but then I've learned that if you don't leave space for adventure that comes up, then it's like, "Well, I'm booked and I don't have any time for things that just, like, randomly come up," and I think that that's really important when you're working on, like, building friendships and working on maintaining your community or trying to grow it, because it's like, well, I don't even know who I don't know yet. Like, I haven't met someone that's gonna wanna go do something with me, and in order to nurture that friendship and start a new friendship, you have to have space for that to happen. But I know that, like, at least for me, that was quite a challenging thing to learn, and it's quite challenging to be like, "Oh my gosh, my whole calendar for the week is available," and that feels really weird and unsettling, so
Yeah, no, for sure.
what is, one thing that you're doing to kind of nurture a community and friendships during this period of your life? Because I know that friendships and community are something that a lot of people struggle with to, like, to build and to find their people, and, you talk about, like, adventure racing and endurance sport, and I know that some people, especially women, can find it hard to be like, "I don't have people to go into the mountains with," or, "I don't have people that wanna go do these, like, big adventures with me."
Yeah, I mean, it's I do have now more people than I
Yeah.
thought, or just like through, people here. Oh, like OMP's trying to like, I always tell people what I want to do. And sometimes I say I want to do this, and maybe people think I'm doing this summer, but no, I'm just, I want to do this, and I'm just thinking out there and I'm putting it out there. And then people will be like, "Oh, I've heard of this. I would like to," and it's just like I feel like it's naturally worked for me to kind of like say things and attract it. And I find now that I can just have my own kind of plans and goals a little bit more, it's even easier to just like put things out there and stuff. Um, but yeah, community is big, and I think it took me a little while to like get back into like some clubs, like more like organized, I guess, community stuff. But I guess the one that I'm as big kind of veteran of, I guess, is the gravel cycling club here. I've been part of it for a while, and like Squamish, everyone's doing everything. So while the same people I gravel with, I go skiing with, and I go do like some ski traverse with, and it's like kind of just very easy. Like it's a pool of people that are just liking to be outside, and it's really easy to just like, hey, would you do this with me? And or people are like, hey, I saw you do this. Like, let me know next time. I want to come. It's like I think there's a lot of that for sure. But I think, yeah, I'm not too sure. Like, I feel like community wise, maybe, yeah, there is actually no, there is quite a lot of stuff that I do. I realize from the community, like we have all these like runs here, like we call them VK runs. They
Hmm.
run only in the winter when it's dark, at night, every last Friday of every month, and they're called very cool. Basically, that's what VK stands for, and it's just like we just go run some segments in the woods, and we race, and it's all in good fun. It's like the points matter, but they don't. Like, I mean, sure, we are all competitive, but like I feel like I think Squamish. Maybe I don't know where you are exactly, but I think Squamish is a very intense town. So I think it's very easy for people to like, communities can feel really intense. There's always the
Hmm.
people at the top, or people, and I think I've been labeled as that person also in those groups. And it's hard sometimes because you're like, I just want to be here to make friends and have fun, like, but I think now, maybe being someone that doesn't have like the event on the calendar or the crazy thing this summer, it's a lot easier to just kind of like find those people again, and like maybe make yourself a little bit more available, like you say, like, um and like, I mean, now I'm about to probably take a few people with me, to go do this kind of 500K gravel race that we just raced through the night. And it's like, we're all going to just try and do it, and I've done it before and it was like absolutely horrible, but I'm doing it again. But now I'm going to have more people that I know out there, so it's like, I think if anything, like those groups, I we just kind of like push each other to like, hey, have you heard of this thing? You want to come? So yeah, maybe I'm part of the community more in that sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely relate to having a community that feels quite intense because I live in Salt Lake City in Utah.
Mm,
And it's definitely of the same mindset of like everyone's a hardcore trail runner, everyone ski tours, everyone mountain bikes, everyone um what other sports are there? Everyone road bikes. Like it's
probably
just
paddle.
yeah, yeah, like, everyone kind of does paragliding is big
Yeah.
here, like, every mountain sport you can think of, it's also the same, and so I think that for someone just getting into sports, it definitely can feel intimidating to be like, "I'm gonna go to all of these places, but this girl does 6 sports, and I'm just trying to get into my first one," and so, it definitely does take practice and time to kind of, like, start doing things on your own. But for someone, I know this is a question that I sent you, but it's something I like to ask everyone is just like for someone that maybe is struggling and they kind of are maybe feeling a little lost on their path, is there a piece of advice that you would offer to them to as to what they can start to do to kind of sift through their journey a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's kind of worked out with me, and I'm surprised this hasn't come up in all my rambling, but I think I'm a very curious person. I've always been very curious, like, just with intellectually curious, but also sport curious, I guess. Like, um, I I'm not scared of being bad at something right off the bat. And then if I like something when I try it, I'm gonna go 110% in it. Maybe sometime higher percent, which is probably why I got so lost, or not lost, but that I went so hard into adventure racing and even sailing when I was a kid. I was obsessed. And that's just my curiosity showing up that way. And I think if you're not curious about trying new things, you're probably not saying you're missing out on it on something because I don't know, but you probably are in a way, like there's probably something out there that you didn't think you'd like that you would actually love. And, you do it once, maybe you like it, just do it again a little bit more, um, kind of like meaningfully, or like try it like, rent a gear, or like get someone to come with you, or try it in a different way. And like, I think that's really worked out for me to just be curious and jump in. And like this summer, I'm trying a biking summer. I'm getting a bike park pass. Going I'm going full bike. I'm not doing as much running. I'm not doing adventure racing. So I picked some endurance races on the mountain bike. I'm going to try some maybe 24-hour races. It's like, and there's nothing more fulfilling, I think, than doing something that you might totally fail. And then maybe you do okay, or maybe you actually fail, or maybe you hate it, but at least you tried. Like this weekend, I pulled a double first time where there's like a local kind of association here of mountain biking, and I did my first XC race and my first enduro. They happened the same day. They're short-ish, but spend the morning on my XC bike, afternoon on my enduro, and the enduro part really was stressing me out, but like turns out, I wasn't so bad. I just, I wasn't there to win, so that pressure was not there. And I didn't really care if I was last. I came in actually with the expectation of being last. And I think I ended up kind of somewhere in the middle in the women's, but like it I think like doing something without an expectation and just doing it for curiosity. And people know, like they see you and they know that you've not done this before. And they won't be like, oh my God, like who is this person? They just like kind of generally, I think, are stoked that people are trying things. So I think that's really worked out for me in probably actually all the sports that I do now. It's kind of because no one really judged me for trying it. And if you're really worried, then you can also get to a level that like there's lots of like groups and courses, or, all sorts of ways that you can get maybe your confidence level just high enough that you feel like you can actually try. But I think just be curious for sure.
Mhm. How do you, as someone that's like really, as I guess is competitive slash taking a break from being competitive, how do you separate that from being curious? Like,
Yeah.
because right, like if you're super competitive, do you fear that you're just gonna get into mountain biking and then end up being super competitive and having the same mindset?
I'm definitely still competitive.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm taking a break from one sport, but no, I don't think I could kill the competitive aspect of
Okay.
of me. And if it's not like I'm how could I say that? I I find ways of being competitive with either different races that happen here, different clubs, different things, or even just me, like just trying to beat my own time on something, or just like doing a big like actually I just 2 weeks ago I did a ski traverse that I had done 5 years ago that I thought I would never do again because it took forever and it was so uncomfortable. And I think we almost like halved it. And we didn't even try, but we just were prepared. We were like, we knew the route, and it was just like, oh, cool, nice. Good to know that, we can improve a little bit. Like every time you do something twice, it's going to be most likely better. So, no, I'm not taking a break from being competitive at all. And I know like there's a lot of space in my calendar for adding races or events. But I think there's different ways of being competitive, I guess. There's the people that compete at the top and like really like push and like really um put a lot of pressure on themselves, I think. And then there's maybe like where most of us in those maybe mountain towns are, it's like we want to be good, we want to try, we want to like, do better than we did before, but but we're also kind of a little bit more maybe realistic with like how much time we want to put into something.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm not taking a break from competitive, but I'm yeah, probably just changing it up. Maybe let's
I
say.
love it. I love it. Well, I do want to be respectful of your time. So, something I like to ask everyone at the end of the podcast is just if there's one piece of advice that you've received that like really stuck with you, and if there's any piece of advice you'd offer to your younger self. That's
I feel
okay.
like there's so many things. I mean, my younger self actually that one I could think, obviously like I think I talked about it before, like how much time you might need to hear something or feel something until you decide to do something about it. And I obviously would love to tell my younger self that, but I also know that I wouldn't change anything that led me to where I am now because I'm such a great place right now that, who knows? If the younger me did know that as soon as things were not as soon as you were not happy, you could walk away, maybe I would be in a completely different place and maybe I would have done crazier things. Maybe I would be happier, but I wouldn't necessarily change because sometimes you need to learn the hard way, like what being happy means and what really doing something for fun is and all that. So maybe I would say that to maybe the people that are listening that are younger and maybe just having this first thought, but I wouldn't necessarily change how I ended up here. And I think yeah, the piece of advice I think kind of like what I said is just like if it's not yes, if it's not hell yes, it's no. I think I think that's a big one. That's so simple and I know like probably everyone knows that. But if I try to be really true to that one and just like if someone even invites me on something that I should be excited about, if I'm not, I kind of see that as like a gut feeling thing that's like, no, there's something off maybe about either the weather or the day or some of the people that you don't feel as comfortable doing this with. Like, I think, and I think that goes also another thing is like my word means a lot and that's why, trust is a big thing for me. And I really, if I say that I'm coming, if I say that I'm doing this thing with you, if I'm going to like, I will do it and I'll do it like, again, 100 or more percent. I think like having that with yourself, that if you're going to do something or if you're going to not do something, just like stick to it, like do it. If it's with other people, communicate about it. But I feel like that's a big one. Also, especially in the outdoors is like, group stuff or things like that. So yeah, I feel like, and then if people bail or if people, you find yourself being by yourself or like having to adapt to maybe the lack of community around you, it's just like you can be your own community, I guess.
Thanks for listening to the Blue Rose podcast. If you love this episode, please hit follow, leave a review, or send it to a friend who's building their own bold life. Keep trusting yourself, and I'll see you next week.